when you're hanging out at the 4 seed, you got a game lead on the team that's hanging in the 5th seed, you don't want to call a game a must-win game. Phoenix Suns play the Los Angeles Lakers tonight in LA, and although you don't want to call it a must-win game, it kind of feels like that. The schedule that lies before the Phoenix Suns is a tough one. They got Sacramento on Friday. They come home on a back-to-back against Philly. They've got Denver a couple times. They got Minnesota, who's fighting for a playoff spot. You got the Lakers again, a team who's fighting for a playoff spot. In fact, out of the remaining 10 games for the Phoenix Suns, only 2 teams have a losing record. So yeah, although you don't want to call it a must-win game against the Los Angeles Lakers, that's what tonight was, in my opinion. Matthew, I don't know if you agree with that, but I kind of felt like tonight was a must-win game for the Suns. Ultimately, they lose by 11 to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, it was a must-win. I didn't think we would win, but it was a must-win. with AD, I mean, with KD out, and then you have Aiden out too. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a loss. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The Austin Reeves thing is happening, and then AD is actually out there playing legit basketball when it matters. So I expected a loss tonight, but it is a must-win at the same time. It's just, I don't know, just got to get through these, I guess, man.
Yeah, and again, the Suns, they're still in the 4th seed. It's not a must-win to the point where, like, the Lakers, who are the 11th seed, trying to fight into the play-in. Like, to them, it's more of a must-win because they're just trying to make the postseason. The Suns are going to the postseason. But if you want to have home court advantage, if you want to give yourself a long life in the postseason, it kind of falls into that category. So a frustrating loss again, a slow, choppy, typical, like, nationally televised game where the Phoenix Suns give up a season-high 46 free throws in this game, which is something that we'll talk about, I'm sure, at the front end of this podcast. Anthony Davis, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, all scoring in double digits for the Los Angeles Lakers and all scoring 20-plus points, whereas Devin Booker scores 33. You got Torrey Craig, Landry Shamet, and Chris Paul are the only other guys in double figures for the Phoenix Suns. This is their 5th loss in 6 games. And Matthew, this is not a good basketball team right now. We might be in the 4 seed. It's not a good basketball team.
Yeah, and I mean, you said that, you know, we're going to make the playoffs, but is it for sure, though? I'm just saying, KD, they said he's going to come back by the end of the month. They said KD's going to come back by the end of the month. Our schedule is really tough. If we miss more games without DeAndre Ayton, I don't know. I'm not saying we're going to lose every game, but this is going to be tough. And I think it's going to be hard just to make the playoffs right now, the way these teams are playing. So
it's definitely going to be tough. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. And if you go to tankathon.com and you go to their remaining schedule strength, the Phoenix Suns, you know, again, 5th toughest schedule ahead of them. They've got 10 games. The opposition's winning percentage is 53.8%. I mean, it's just, there's some good teams that lie ahead of us. So again, a lot of challenges for this team and a lot of interesting things that we're going to talk about on this edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. So we appreciate everybody who's hanging out with us live in the chat. The sky isn't falling, but it sure is raining a lot for the Phoenix Suns. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, hit that thumbs up button. If you're listening on the Basketball Podcast Network or wherever you consume your pods, if you can rate us, do it. If you can't, don't. If you can rate us and you don't want to, don't. I don't care. This is just kind of a disappointing loss for the Suns. So I think that everybody's earned a nice cold beverage. So if you got a Guinness like I do, still got some left over from St. Patrick's Day, pop them. And let's talk about this this must-win that ended up being a fuck we lost game. Oh, well. 122-111, the Phoenix Suns lose to the Los Angeles Lakers, give up 34 points in the 4th quarter. Even though, you know, entering the 4th quarter, they were down 3, lose by 11. And it brings me to my first question, Matthew.
Matthew, I got to ask.
Matthew, I've got to ask, do the Phoenix Suns simply not listen to Coach Monty Williams? Because
not fouling, right?
What's that?
Don't foul.
Yeah. Monty's mantra before this game, after everything that we've experienced over the past couple weeks, right? You know, we've had some games where, like, listen, you don't want to put yourself in a situation in which the officiating wins the games. We've had that mentality as fans. Our last podcast, I think we spent the first 15 minutes simply talking about the bullshit that is foul baiting and things of that nature. And Monty Williams just kind of said what the right answer is before this game, and he said it a couple days ago before the Phoenix Suns, who made a stop in Phoenix on their way coming over on their road trip. He said, we just need to stop fouling. At the end of the day, we just need to stop fouling. He said we can't let the refs dictate our poise and this, that. He's like, we just need to stop fouling. The Phoenix Suns respond with giving up the most free throws that they have the entire season. Their previous high was 43 free throws on December 2nd against the Houston Rockets. They give up 46 fucking free throws tonight. And this isn't bullshit fouls, man. This is them fouling them. Like, they're like, okay, yeah, cool, Monty. Start knocking guys over. Like, they didn't fucking listen, dude.
I mean, I think it put more on them, just basically knowing, like, hey, we can't foul, but then you're playing Anthony Davis. And I'm not saying Anthony Davis didn't take some possessions off, but mostly when he's down there, he's going to get the calls. Bismack, Jock can only do their best, but they're going to foul for sure. And of course, if you can't guard Austin Reeves, who can just draw a foul like any old good basketball player out there, you're going to get a call. They're going to get the call. Like you said, they were fouls. And it was a stinky 46. I know, I didn't even go on Twitter hardly at all because I knew it would be about the fouls. So as soon as I saw it was 27-10 at halftime, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know it was that bad because I just thought it was legit fouls. The only foul that might have been a mistake there by the refs was the one where the book got hit in the face and they called it, it was a foul. Then it's not a foul. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I think right now the Suns are really focused on maybe too much focus on getting to the line, but in the wrong ways. It's not part of their game. It's like asking DeAndre Ayton really to go out there and be physical, right? It's just asking this team to draw fouls. It's not going to happen. You have a point guard in Chris Paul who cannot draw contact. I think he got bumped a little bit on the perimeter and it looked like he might have got hurt. So he can't get any contact. Anytime Book goes down there to draw contact, I get scared he's going to get hurt. So a lot of these guys, they avoid it. They're finesse and that's the way they play. And this just sucks going into the playoffs because for sure, I said it last pod, these teams are going to be physical. And if we do go play a play-in team and they're more physical than us, it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be like, oh, like, I don't even know if we have a chance to win this. I know with KD, without KD, it doesn't matter. This team just cannot be physical. And they've just always been that way. And it just sucks now because we're losing games. And we just are like, wow, look at the free throw disparity. It's like it's been like that for forever.
Again, I talked about the statistic prior to this game that this season, now 72 games, only 23 games have the Phoenix Suns actually shot more free throws than the opposition. The Lakers are number one in the league in shooting more free throws than the opposition. So coming into this game, you already know that's going to happen. It's by design. It's the way that they play. Austin Reeves is one of those guys who knows how to strategically draw contact. When you don't have DeAndre Ayton on the interior, Anthony Davis is going to get his because anytime he wants, he can just post up Bismack Biyombo or Jock Landale and carve them up and get the foul at the same time. I'm more frustrated with the simple fact that this team can't make the adjustment. So says Jay's hanging out in the chat, and he says, Monty just walked out of his oppressor. Fucking amazing. So that'll be interesting to watch to watch the press conference of Monty Williams after this. Because
about fouls, I'm assuming, right?
It's got to be, because all he's been doing has been talking about fouls. And again, he's saying we got to stop fouling. They committed 31 fouls, which ties their season high this year. So you can sit there and say, well, that was kind of a bogus call, and that's kind of a bogus call. But if you're fouling the opposition 31 times, and let's just say 10 of them are bogus calls, that's still 21 fouls committed, which the Phoenix Suns themselves only committed, or the Lakers themselves only committed 20. So it's by scheme, it's by design. And as you mentioned, the challenge with this is as we prepare to enter the playoffs, this is a glaring weakness. Good, bad, or indifferent, this is a glaring weakness of the Phoenix Suns. And what the weakness is, in my opinion, it isn't necessarily that they commit so many fouls. It's that they allow the opposition to get so deep and penetrate within the paint at such an easy clip that you can put yourself in a situation where you can get those fouls, because that's where they occur. This isn't happening on jump shooters 15 feet from the basket. It's happening as players are driving to the rim and they're in the paint. And the Suns' perimeter defense can't negate that. And you watch the Suns, and there's two things that happen. One, they don't take shots on the interior very often. They're fourth worst in the league in shooting inside 10 feet. And two, when they do, simply due to the nature of their psyche, their shot selection, they're not experts at drawing contact. So from a defensive standpoint, Matthew, aren't you concerned that, like, let's say that in the first round we end up playing the Timberwolves? Anthony Edwards is like, I'm just going to attack all the time because I can, because there's no one on the perimeter who can stop me.
No, I'm not. Well, if Katie's back and we have DeAndre Ayton back, we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine down there. I think the thing is, DA has to know how to not, just make the contact. Like, he has had hard times this year. He's definitely had a hard time just, kind of holding his own. But right now, I think Monty, what he's doing right now is maybe getting out ahead of this. This is the only way to get out ahead of it, because the Suns just can't adjust really right now. And it just doesn't matter who they play. It's just like, if it's the Lakers, if it's the Heat, whoever's physical that can get to the line, they're still going to give up fouls. I think what Monty's doing right now too, he might know, like, hey, my team is just horrible at this, but the situation they're in, it kind of makes sense. But also, he's probably just like, I need to just bring this to attention to the officiating so that maybe this can help us. Like we said, dude, tonight's game, a lot of these fouls were fouls, I thought. And the way that the Suns are playing defense out there down under the perimeter or down in the paint, it's hard for them to even get any good positioning on these guys. For some reason, they're having a hard time coming over. They're putting their arms down when they're not supposed to be putting their arms down. But then if they don't play any defense and they're not fouling anybody, these guys are getting to the rim. Like, they're cutting, they're getting to the rim. They're just attacking at will. It's just it's a weakness right now, we can say, only because KD and why do I not remember his name? DeAndre Ayton. DA is not back. When he gets back, I think it's gonna be fine. It's really hard right now to come after this game and just talk about it, because this team is just fucked up and down. Like, it's just not a good looking team right now for those reasons. So I'm saying, dude, I think it'll be okay once those two guys are there, because I think KD and Ayton did a great job together down underneath the basket, and so did with Jock and Busy. So I think it's gonna be fine. It's just a fucking hard loss right now.
It is. And the timing of it obviously really hurts. So, again, Black Sunday in the chat, thank you for the $5. We truly appreciate it. He says, Scott Foster set to officiate this game. Lakers shot 26 more free throws. Lakers, with that win, moved to the 10th seed. The NBA knew what they did tonight. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, you got to have LeBron there. Everyone misses him. You got to have LeBron and the Lakers in the playoffs. That's fine. I mean, we can sit here and say, and thanks for the money, man. I really appreciate it. Really do.
We need it.
Thanks a lot. We need it. It's rough. All right. We're going to go probably lose our houses pretty soon. But I think what's going to happen here is the officiating might fix some things for that the Lakers can make it. You might think that, and it probably is true, but there's nothing you can do. And it just like it, you've been seeing all this shit in the news where these refs are throwing guys out of games, like last night with the Clippers, where he barely even argued and threw his hands up and got thrown out of the game. These refs are actually getting punished now. I think one of them actually was demoted. Yeah. And they can't take the games over like
they're not going to do it to Scott Foster, man.
No, they're not. And I'm telling you, dude, tonight, I know it looks bad on the paper, but I just don't think this is one of those games. I just think the refs actually getting too involved in these players' business and throwing them out of the game early, that's the stuff I don't like. That stuff where they're just throwing technicals around and trying to own up and, have the tiny dick situation. Like, we can't have that. The fouls are going to happen no matter what. I don't know what to say about it, really.
What are your thoughts on Devin Booker getting hit in the head and was called an offensive foul, and the Suns had to use a challenge, their only challenge, to simply get that call right?
Man, that didn't make any sense. How do we not get the challenge back, though, after that? It's like, just common sense. It's like, hey, we made a mistake. We originally called it a foul. And
like
on the
Scott
Lakers,
Foster called it the offensive foul, and then the guy who was 40 feet across he's like, no, and then Scott Foster's like, oh yeah, you're right. So do you want to? Here's the Monty press conference, ladies and gentlemen.
I spoke with Joe last week. I can sit here and rant and rave about what I feel like is not a fair whistle. It's just not. With the 46 free throws, we're doing the same. We're attacking the rim. I'm getting explanations about we're taking too many jump shots, mid-range jump shots. We're playing a physical game. They had 27 free throws in the first half. They end up with 46. When do you see a game with 46 free throws for one team? Like that's just not right. I don't care how you slice it. It's happening to us too much. Other teams are reaching, other teams are hitting, and we're not getting the same call. And I'm tired of it. It's old. 46 to 20 free throws. Right. With Devin Booker on our team. He gets 12. Josh gets, our bench had no free throws. That's just, I'm over it. Been talking about the same thing for a while. Doesn't matter what team it is. Last game, Shea gets, I think he had 19 free throws. 19, man. And it's old. And so I'm tired of talking about free throws. Our guys have to do their job. We understand that. But that's a huge disparity. 46 free throws. And I'll say it again, 46 to 20. That's it. That's all I got to say.
There you go.
Ooh, that look at the end.
That look.
Excuse me. I had the hardest time really talking about fouls and the refs. You can tell the first 15 minutes of this pod, I'm just like, I don't fucking know. Because honestly, I'm going to side with not the refs really, but just the side that, you know what, we didn't really draw contact. And I think a lot of the fouls that Book did get were because he was complaining. I didn't feel like he got hit. And then when he did get hit a few times, he didn't get the call. So it's a tough thing to talk about. But also, like, Monty's really, I'm serious. I think he's doing this because he needs to let the refs know, like, we need to be fair. Even if we don't draw the contact, even though if we're not good against the line, we still need to find a way to equal this out. But I don't think that's even possible. But good on him.
Well, and again, there's that one play where Devin Booker's going down and D'Angelo Russell's beat on a fast break and just slaps the shit out of him.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
And just nothing's called.
Yeah.
So it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to come on here every night and have to bitch about the free
it's
throws.
hard. This is the
it's
worst.
tough.
I fucking hate this so much.
It really is. It's just frustrating because, again, that disparity is ridiculous. And I again, they're valid they're valid calls on the Suns. That's the other side of that. Is they're valid. What's happening is they're not getting the calls on the other end. And that's the point that I'm making. So Justin in the chat, go fuck yourself.
Wait, really quick.
Because
this is not the same Suns. This Suns team right now is just a like the island of misfits out there with Devin Booker. So it makes sense that there is that big of disparity because it's not the same team. Like that's the one thing. It's like it's Booker and who else? Like I don't understand why we keep having this talk about foul or about even losing these games because this is tough to even just assemble at the end of like what the fuck happened because this team is just so off course right now.
So here's my other question. So the Suns have lost 5 out of 6, right? And DA hasn't been there for what? The last 2, right? This one and the last one, right?
Yeah.
Is the insertion of Kevin Durant truly going to change the identity of this team that is losing 5 out of 6 to the Thunder, to the Lakers? If that's the case, and they're having Kevin Durant come back, are all of a sudden going to be a championship level team?
Well, that's what we talked about last pod. You asked me, you're like, how far can this team go with Kevin Durant? I said second round. It's hard to tell because it does take time. And I think right now, the way you can see these guys playing around Book, and Chris Paul is just an absolute zero for most of every game. I'm sorry. It's really bad. And then you're going to have KD and Book, and you have DeAndre Ayton, who's going to take time too. Like, he's going to take a lot of time to really get involved in this offense and figure things out. So, short amount of time, it's just you have the best 2 players maybe out there. That's the best chance you have. But everything surrounding it kind of looks a little bit better. The bench looks a little bit better with Shamet back. It's going to be hard to tell with these losses. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that obviously the reinsertion of Kevin Durant's going to change a lot of this team. I mean, that's like duh. I mean, you're getting a top 15 player back. But again, the challenge that I see with this team is just a lot of consistent inconsistencies when it comes to the bench, when it comes to the flow and the rotations that we haven't had a chance to experience.
Yeah.
And that Monty Williams hasn't had a chance to experiment with. Who stepped up in Kevin Durant's absence? Who's done it? Who?
Zilch.
Nobody.
Who's supposed to step up though? Really, I mean, Okogie's been really good.
Has
but
he?
He was good before.
Has he been good though?
For the limited time he's had, yeah, I feel like he's been fine.
And Justin, they were 3-0 with KD. Okay.
Are you guys fighting or something? Are you guys?
No.
You guys going?
Justin's just really pissing me off in the chat right now.
All right,
he's being facetious.
Everybody.
Who's supposed to step up in the absence of KD? Anybody other than Devin Booker. Chris Paul ain't doing it. DeAndre Ayton wasn't doing it. And then he got injured. Terrence Ross had one good game. TJ Warren hasn't done shit. Landry Shamet hasn't done shit. Or I'm sorry, Landry Shamet has done shit. Cameron Payne's been off and on. It's just we're seeing the fringe pieces of this team are not playing well, period. And that's what happens when you lose 5 out of 6. Yeah. No, there's going to be reasons for that. Yeah, because some guys just aren't playing well.
Yeah. The guys you want to step up, though, that's like the Mikal Bridges who stepped up before, right? Like, you're looking for those kind of guys to step up in the situation where, like, hey, we need another superstar. I mean, another star here, a guy that can help Devin Booker in the situation when everyone was hurt and everyone was coming back. Mikal did a good job doing that, right? And then Cameron Johnson would have been next. Like, hey, step up. We don't have those type of guys right now without KD, right? So we just have to wait for KD because I don't think anybody can fill that void of just shooting and just, like, having a lights out night. I know Ross can maybe do that, but there's no one really else. I mean, there's not, especially when you have Chris Paul out there.
But that's why I say, even with the addition of Kevin Durant, how good is this team going to be? Because we don't have those fringe players. We don't have the guys who can contribute at a championship clip. Now, like you said, a second round, maybe a Western Conference Finals. Obviously I hope that I'm wrong, but I'm a realist. And what I've seen without Kevin Durant before and after, when he was there, we were 3-0 and it was fan-fucking-tastic. But before and after, this team has looked like shit. Period. Exclamation point. And the only thing that's going for the Suns is the rest of the West sucks ass. Okay, this team is what now? 38-34. If this was any other season, 38-34, where does that get you? This team with the remaining record, or the remaining record of the teams that they have to play, they're going to be lucky if they hit 500. Okay, they've got 10 games left, right? You go through that schedule, which we will. If you say they go 4-6, you're being optimistic. That's 500 basketball, and that could be the 4 seed this year. That's reality. With all this scoring, with everything that's going on in the modern NBA, that's reality. A 42-42 record could be a 4 seed. Whereas this franchise experienced the 2014 Suns that won, 49 games, and that wasn't enough to get in the playoffs?
Yeah. All right, so Mark Jackson, big shout out to him tonight. I think he made a really good comment tonight to start the broadcast where he talked about Bismack started out hot. But he said if Ayton plays the way Bismack plays offensively and defensively on the boards, they're going to win the chip. And like I've always said, he is the X factor. Mm-hmm. So I know I just said, like, hey, Ayton's going to take some time to get implemented into this offense to really just kind of showcase what he can have, what he can do out there. And you know what? But Mark Jackson's right. If Ayton can just, be that guy down there and be a bitch down there, just grabbing boards, putbacks, all that, like he can do if he wants, and put his body in the right spacing, then that'll help a lot on that end. And KD and Book can do what they want to do out there, I feel like, offensively. And this year, man, it's one of those years we'll look back on and be like, whoo, is this a season where, the 72 game season is always a thing, but is this really the season, the ending of the 82 game season? Because it just feels that way. It feels like this probably might not ever happen again, but maybe one more season, because teams suck this year. All the games suck this year. There's maybe 2 games I watched where we had fully healthy teams. Everything else is just, one guy's out, then you're not going to get the matchup you want to watch. that's just how this whole season has been. So I'm looking forward to maybe shortening the season so we don't have the same thing again.
What sucks this year is the defense, right? Like you look at the overall scoring in the league and it's just out of control. I mean, we've had 2 guys score 70 points in a game. We have guys dropping 50, 60. You know, it used to be like, oh shit, dude, Dame Lillard dropped 52 points, last night. And that's like a one-off. And it happens all the time this season. So defenses, it's like the NBA has turned into a bunch of all-star games. And again, looking at this through the lens of a Suns fan, it's because we're gifting them so many points at the line and fouling out all of our fucking guys, And so it's a challenge right now. And I know that brighter days are ahead, right? Like you watch this podcast, you got to sit there and understand that we go live after every game, good, bad, or indifferent. We go live after every game. And we have to react on what we just consumed. And when we consume a game like that, it's fucking frustrating. And when you consume it and you have to go live and you're, oh, cool, I get to talk about another Suns loss. Okay, they've lost 5 out of their last 6 games. I'm not going to come out here and just be like, dude, everything's going to be good and once KD gets back. That would be the most boring podcast ever. You tune in like, all right, guys, the Phoenix Suns lost to the Lakers tonight, but they didn't have Kevin Durant. So go home and love your family. It's like that's not what this is about. This is about having conversation about the state of the Suns right now. The state of the Suns is they are teetering at potentially losing the 4 seed. Now, that being said, the Los Angeles Clippers lost Paul George last night. I don't know if you saw that play, but it fucking sucked.
That was bad. They said 2 to 3 weeks, but honestly,
2 to 3 weeks. Yeah,
that looked like it was season ending, and that sucks because that team. Well, I mean, it doesn't suck for the Suns really, but you know what I mean. It sucks for that team because they were rolling. Dude, that was bad. What Bill Parcells says, you're only as good as your record, right? Yeah. And that's what we can go by. You're totally right. Where these games where we come on after here, and I'm telling you, like the free throws suck and the Suns look awful at times, but it's one of those things where you just got to get through it, and you got to just be like, all right, well, who do you have out there who's really stepping up, like you said? If no one is, it's painful to watch because you're just hoping that like, oh, this group can maybe come together. Mm-hmm. By the time KD comes back, get a couple wins, has some momentum, but there's no momentum this year at all. But the playoffs start soon, dude. Yeah. It's coming. It's coming, and right now it just doesn't look good. Even with Ayton's injury too, man. I don't even know how long he's going to be out.
Well, and that's the other challenge that we have is, DeAndre Ayton, we saw what play it was, right? Like he injured himself when he got kneed in the groin against the Magic. And that can be a painful injury, especially for a big guy. But he's not even traveling with the team. Like, we're not going to see him against Sacramento. And for all the people who knock DeAndre Ayton, it's like, yeah, you knock him until you don't have him, man. And you really appreciate his size, the minutes he plays, his defensive prowess, and his switchability the moment that you don't have him. So we're stuck in kind of the world of what if right now.
So we deserve it then. Is that what you're saying? I deserve no DA because of all the crap we talk
on Matthew.
It is.
For all of the shit that you talked, all that stuff, it's completely on you. Real quick, Black Sunday says video going around of D'Lo, and I guess that he was in the huddle and he was shouting, "Scott Foster is reffing y'all." Scott Foster, what does that tell you? Well, a couple things. Obviously, it tells you that everybody knows that Scott Foster versus the Suns is a thing. Although I feel like it's kind of died off because I feel like we've won some games in the past couple seasons with him being there. But, that being said, like we have the video, so let's see if we can hear. There it was. We heard it.
Yeah.
What does that tell you, Matthew?
That was a foul. But yeah. No, it's a thing. Anything to get underneath Chris Paul, the little ounce that he has left in him, just got to kind of fizzle it out, right?
DraftKings. Ready for the underdogs, the upsets, and the unbelievable action from DraftKings Sportsbook? The biggest tournament in college basketball is here. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on college hoops and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all customers can score a no-sweat bet during round 1 and 2 of the tournament. Go to the app, opt in, and place a no-sweat bet this weekend. If it doesn't hit, you'll get a bonus back up to $10. I got Houston winning it all. I know. I'm dumb. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and sign up with code TBPN. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly, win or lose. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TBPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Coach Fallen Founder in the chat says, I felt more confident the last 2 seasons at this point than I do now. How do you feel, Matthew?
Yeah. Yes, of course. Right?
I do. I felt more confident 2 years ago. We were just happy to be in the playoffs, and we had a damn good team. Last year, we were on our way to 64 wins, and we thought, fuck, man, this is insane. We're going to win the West by 8 games. And now here we are. We're 38 and 34. We lose into the Lakers. And the confidence, again, has to do with what lies ahead for the Phoenix Suns. You know, you take a look at their upcoming schedule, and it's pretty brutal, man. It's like I said. So you got Sacramento, winning team. You have the Sixers, a winning team. You have the Utah Jazz, who I think the Lakers just jumped to take the 10 seed from. But they're a team that's fighting for that 10 seed, right? Because the Lakers now are 36 and 37. The Utah Jazz currently are 35 and 37. You got the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves are currently sitting at the 7 seed. You got Denver. You got OKC, who's now the 8 seed. You got the Spurs. That's the one easy game on this schedule is the Spurs. Then you got Denver, Lakers, Clippers. Every one of these teams is either in the playoffs, except for the Jazz, who is just outside the playoffs. That's our last 10 games, folks. Everything you want is on the other side of hard. Everything you want's on the other side of this fucking schedule. Every one of these teams, outside of Denver, maybe. Denver has a 3.5 game on Memphis, so they're going to still be trying to win games because they're still trying to hold on to that number 1 seed, man. It's going to be tough, man.
Yeah, that's why I don't even know if we'll make the playoffs. I'm just kidding. I think KD might be back. I feel like that Wednesday game, right, against the Wolves, he has to be, right?
Potentially. That's got to be the comeback game.
Yeah, and the whole thing where James Jones is like, oh, if this was a playoffs, he would be playing. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. James Jones that said that. That's just to be like, oh, we didn't fuck up by trading for KD, who just might be hurt every year for the Suns. You know, we didn't give up Mikal and Cameron Johnson for that guy. He's fine. There's nothing, right? He's just trying to like put under the bridge. He's like, this is okay. He'll be back, all that stuff. Just like this whole year. It's like, hey, we'll be okay. It's all right. But I've been panicking since that injury just because of the way he did get hurt. Mm-hmm. That's why I haven't been confident in his team at this point. Because the way he got hurt was like, oh, well, what? So should he not warm up and stuff? So those are the things you worry about now as a Suns fan. It's just this team being very fragile. So before the Suns, the last 2 years were just the runs they were making. It was just this team was unbeatable at times. Last year, of course, they were unbeatable. The year before that, still find themselves, and they made it to the finals in a way where a lot of people thought they were lucky. Now you're coming to the season where, you know, Chris Paul is absolutely nothing. DA still has to come back from injury and get ready with this offense with KD. There's so many questions in that time span where it's okay to be just a little bit frazzled, man. Just a little, you know, it's okay. But then, like you said, the whole West is kind of like if you just get in and you have a healthy KD and you have a healthy team that can stay healthy, then you have a shot. So that's the only thing you have to worry about. But it's also just making the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to lose every game, but that's going to be a tough schedule. Even with KD, you have no idea. They barely won that Mavericks game too, where Luka missed that game tire, and then everyone thought the Suns were unbeatable. Look at that team. They're going to kill it in the playoffs with KD. You know what I mean? It was barely a win against the Mavericks.
And the Mavericks suck.
Yeah, the Mavericks, they put up a fight with Kyrie. They do, and now he's out. He was out tonight. But I'm just saying, like, you just have to have your healthy squad there with PG being hurt. Cat is coming back, but I don't care about the Wolves. I think the Suns can handle them. But if it's a play-in, I don't know. Anthony Edwards, all that shit, that might not look good. Yeah. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of questions, right?
And there's a ton of questions. Number one is health, because that's what everybody in Suns Nation is holding on to ever so delicately. Well, Kevin Durant's going to be back. And yeah, James Jones said that if this was the playoffs, he'd be playing, right? Like, I get that. But all it takes is one little tweak, one little thing, and they're done. Because, again, I go back to the fringe of this roster and why we've talked ourselves into a lot of these players. We're not seeing consistent production from anybody. Chris Paul, a decent game tonight. I'll give him that because he was trying to be more aggressive tonight. But Chris Paul ends with 18 points. But in order for him to do 18 points, only 4 assists, he was 8 of 17 from the field. Chris Paul shot the most points tonight, and he had 5 fouls. He was like, listen, I've got to pick up the offensive intensity, and he just can't do it anymore. Like, I want to be optimistic. God, I wish I could have the blind fucking stupidity that some people have to be so optimistic and just be like, yeah, it's cool. And then we're out in the playoffs and they're like, yeah, it's cool. Like, I wish I could do that. But I'm a fucking Suns fan. I'm a pessimistic realist when it comes to the Phoenix Suns. Nothing ever goes our way. Nothing ever breaks our way. It's literally been proven time and time again. We trade Kevin Durant. He comes here hurt and he hurts his fucking ankle. It's just like
never happens.
And we try to talk ourselves into being positive and optimistic and, let's smoke a bowl and everything's going to be happy and pet the fucking fuzzy wall and that shit. But that's not the way the world works. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's just not the way that the world works. And when you're a fan of the Phoenix Suns and you've been shot down and pushed down, and every time you have hope, you're like, oh my God, this is great. I feel a little bit of hope. This could be an amazing. Oh shit. It happens over and over and over and over again. There's chapter after chapter after chapter. So forgive me if I'm not sitting here just super excited for Kevin Durant coming back, because it's like when Kevin Durant comes back, okay, what next? Devin Booker's going to have to carry the team until then, and he'll probably be, a hamstring might be hurt, or Chris Paul is fucking cooked. So we have to rely on DeAndre Ayton. And that's why you're correct when you say DeAndre Ayton is an X factor. He is the X factor for this team come playoff time, because we're going to need his offensive and defensive prowess to both be on display consistently for this team to have any shot at winning a title. And we watch him every night. We don't know if we're going to get it, man.
You know what, though? I think it's tough for Monty, but he has to do this. I think what he has to do, even when KD's back, I don't know if we can play games where we're closing with Chris Paul. I just don't think we can. I think a lot of these leads, even when we cut into them and Chris Paul's back on the court, it just doesn't look good. I think you can get energy from other guys. If I were to close the game, if KD's back, and then you have DeAndre Ayton in there, I think I'd put Okogie there at point, man. And then maybe someone else, another shooter or something. Like even tonight, I was thinking, like, could we just have Shamit close the game with Book? Just because I love what Chris Paul does most of the games where he can get his assists and get his jump shot. But when his runners are clanking off the rim a couple times a game, it's like wide open shots towards the rim. I'm like, what is going on? Like, you know what I mean? Like he's just totally breaking down in a way where I didn't think it was possible. Like this year, of course, like he's had games, he's had flashes early in the year where it's like, no, he's okay, he's fine. But I'm telling you, man, when these games get close and you need to slow things down, maybe it's not the right thing to do is slow things down with Chris Paul. Maybe you got to put Okogie in there when, Booker's in there and Shamit, just guys that are quick, like high offensive firepower. You know what I mean? Like just guys that are just ready to shoot. I don't know. You got to do something else because this Chris Paul thing right now, when he's in there, I'm like, oh, we lost. That's how I think. I'm like, we're going to lose.
Now here's where I'll push back, because I think that with Kevin Durant and with DeAndre Ayton back, I think you can play Chris Paul in the final minutes, because you're not asking anything more than for him to facilitate. And that's where he can pick apart due to his experience, due to his cerebral nature, and the way that he sees the game. He will flourish in that role. I truly believe that, because you're asking him to do literally nothing. And guess what? If he's wide open for a 15-footer, he can knock it down. But you're right, in these games without Kevin Durant, and it's literally like, okay, we have Devin Booker and Chris Paul's the number 2 option on offense. He's got to be the number 4 or 5 option on offense. So that's where I'll push back on you a little bit there, because when he's the number 2, you're right. Like these past few games, when it's Devin Booker and Chris Paul closing it out, Chris Paul's a shell of himself. He can't get open. He can't create any physical contact, because as you mentioned, if he creates any physical contact, he's the one who gets hurt. And we don't need him being hurt going into it, because again, you need to have a leader out there on the court. And that's why it's going to be really interesting when we hit the offseason to see what happens with Chris Paul. When we do our weekly podcast in the offseason, that's going to be the number one topic. What is going to happen with Chris Paul this offseason? Because the dude's old and you see it. So I think that when we hit
too slow,
he's too slow. He's not physical.
But even when you're saying he's a 0 out there, like, I mean, not
but,
a 0,
but he's not a 0 though. But he's not a 0. I know, not with KD, AD, and Devin Booker.
But I know you're like, he can do nothing but, shoot or, facilitate. I just think he's too slow for it. I really do. I just think that he's going to cause a lot of pain for us towards the end of games turn the ball over or something. I can just see that thrown out there.
I can see it too, unfortunately, and that's just kind of
yeah. Actually, Chris Paul in the playoffs, that is a thing. So
yeah, Chris Paul in the playoffs. Like, if you take a look at the history, it doesn't necessarily bode well for the Phoenix Suns. I do want to pull up a couple comments in the chat that I appreciate. So again, thank you guys for hanging out with us. I know this ain't the greatest. You're not sitting around eating popcorn, but Coach Fallen Founder says, as a New Orleans Saints fan, I will just say, all we need is a magical season, and it can happen. And God, I want that so bad. And Coach also says, Jake, you're great. John, you're like the kid in Angels in the Outfield that doesn't believe in God anymore. The other kid has to remind him that the team can win it all because, hey, it could happen. I'm standing here just like Angels in the Outfield, waving.
The one game KD comes back and everything looks good, we'll be on the other side again. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, it'll happen. Well, he'll come back. He'll have an amazing game. We'll beat a team that's tough, and then like you said, everything will be okay. But misery loves company, and welcome to being a Phoenix Suns fan. And, unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes. Is you play a team like the Lakers, who you should beat, and it's going to be tough. When you don't have Kevin Durant, you don't have DeAndre Ayton. But when you see the opposition shoot 46 free throws against you, you're pissed. You're straight up pissed. And you take a look at the playoff picture now. Okay. Oh, before I get to the playoff picture, I did want to bring up, let's see here, something on Twitter. And I thought this was very interesting. Okay. So we have a writer at Bright Side of the Sun, at StayTrueS.3. It's Stephen Pregame. I know I messed up his last name, but he put this tweet out today, and I thought this was really interesting. It says, Phoenix Suns catch and shoot percentage on 3-point attempts post All-Star game. Kevin Durant in his 3 games played was 66.7%. And again, this is catch and shoot percentage on 3-point attempts. Booker's 59.3%. Damian Lee, 56.3%. Chris Paul, 47.6%. Terrence Ross, 47.4%. And then you look, Cameron Payne, 33.3%. Torrey Craig, 33.3%. Ish Wainwright, 32.4%. And Josh Okogie, 31.4%. So the question I have is, when Kevin Durant does return, we know that fifth starter is going to be somebody who highly benefits from the catch and shoot 3. Because as defenses collapse, there's always one guy standing in the corner. And we saw it in the Josh Okogie game where he went 0 for 8 until Ish Wainwright kind of came in and saved the game against the Mavericks. So the question I have here is, when Kevin Durant does come back, and that's going to be Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and DeAndre Ayton, is Josh Okogie really the right fifth starter for offensive purposes? Or do you put in a Damian Lee or even a Terrence Ross, who, as I've mentioned before, Damian Lee is 56.3% on catch and shoot threes, and Terrence Ross is 47.4% on catch and shoot threes. What do you think, Matthew?
I go with Okogie still. I think he's just so versatile. You got to leave him in there. I know the catch and shoot thing right there. That's pretty good. Pretty good look. Of course, he's on the bottom.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, though. He's the worst out of all these guys I just mentioned. 8 players. He's the worst on catch and shoot threes, and that's
because
literally
he goes so cold sometimes, right? Like, he can go for 8 those games, right? But I still trust him. But it's just about trust to me.
This is a big enough time period, though, because these are numbers post All-Star break, right? So that's the thing. I get what Okogie brings when it comes to his defensive prowess and his hustle and his offensive rebounding. Those are all great numbers. But if you talk about what's the one thing that you want the fifth starter to really excel at with that lineup, my answer would be the catch and shoot 3, because that's what that guy's going to be doing all the time. And the data is showing us, is like, hey, maybe that's not the answer. Maybe you do put Damian Lee out there and let him, and you move Okogie to the second unit. Then all of a sudden your second team unit has a Torrey Craig and has a Josh Okogie, who we mentioned before is a pretty good defensive combination with that second team unit, knowing that your offensive production is going to be primarily from Cameron Payne and Landry Shamet.
No, it's Okogie to me. Sorry, man. I think Shamet would be great, but you can't put him in the starting lineup. The thing is, too, man, KD plays with a lot of minutes with that second unit, the 3 games he was playing with us. So that's going to be huge for Shamet and Ross too. But that's the thing is Ross going to just do catch and shoot? He better be, because the catch and shoot guys have to be Ross. It has to be Lee, and it has to be Shamet. And Shamet he can make his own shots too, but those guys just have to be ready. A lot of times in these games, they're trying to do too much still, just like Ross did today, where he was just trying to do too much off the dribble. And you just got to stand there, shoot your shot, but there's no spacing in a game like tonight. So KD will bring that with the second unit, but I'd still keep Okogie there in the first unit.
Okay. I think I go away from Okogie, and
really,
I really do. I think that's the benefit of having that other person out there, because we saw it in the game against the Mavericks. Josh Okogie was wide open, and he was 0 of 8. You need a guy who can knock down 40% of those, man. That becomes like 3 of 8. That's 9 points right there. And it felt like that entire game, they were down 9 points. And I think that's how you have to make that. That's the adjustment you have to make, in my opinion, which we know Monty Williams won't make that adjustment, because that's not really what he does. So
he's too worried about the refs' imaginary fouls that he once called.
Yeah, I
don't understand it.
The Suns committed the fouls tonight, but they also were getting fouled as per usual. It's just not being called. Bringing up the playoff picture, taking a look at it live and up to date. Currently, the Denver Nuggets would play the winner of the whatever. The Suns right now are primed to play the Los Angeles Clippers. Okay, now that being said, the Golden State Warriors are just a half game behind the Clippers. The Phoenix Suns are a half game better than the Clippers. Okay, so we're 10.5 games out of first. Clippers are 11. Golden State Warriors are 11-5. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're 2 games above the play-in. And I mentioned this before. The key is you have to, like, if you're losing games, other teams have to be losing. The challenge is, if you look at the seeds right now, 5 through 10, that's Golden State, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Dallas Mavericks, and Los Angeles Lakers. Those 5 teams, 4 of them have won 2 in a row, while the Suns have lost 2 in a row. So we're starting to see that shrink. So my first question, are you worried about the Suns potentially falling out of the playoff picture relative to falling into the play-in game? And 2, if the playoffs were to start today, we would play the Clippers. How do you feel about that?
Okay. For the Clippers, I would be okay. I think the whole Paul George injury, that's going to be something that might be season ending. If you only have one of those two, it's definitely something that's doable for the Suns. If you're talking about KD coming back, of course, for the playoffs, I think they could also still win that series in like maybe 5 or 6 games. But I'm serious. Like, the Clippers are rolling, dude. And a lot of these games in the playoffs that are going to come down to just the shot, getting a nasty, like, little fadeaway shot over somebody. That's the Clippers game. They can definitely do that. They can definitely play defense. They can hit big shots. They move the ball around really well. I know Russell Westbrook's kind of settled down to his old. He's not the same like he was with the Lakers, but right now with the Clippers, he kind of looks a little bit better. He's kind of handling himself a lot better with that team. But I am worried about this whole situation going to the play-in. I really am. It's up to KD. I think it's up to KD to say, like, hey, I'm coming back. Like, fuck the training staff. It's like, no, let's just hold out. We got to get wins. We can't do anything with this team right now. We got to get wins. DA has played all season long. It's his turn to be injured. Come the fuck back, KD. We need you here. And just start playing, dude. Just start fucking playing. And you're like, well, he'll get hurt again. Yeah, but these are the playoffs now. We got to maintain that top 6 seed. We can't be in the play-in. And with no momentum at all, if we get in the play-in and some teams playing home, who knows? It's just 1 game, 2 games, you might be out and be like, what the fuck just happened? Why did KD not come back earlier? I think he needs to come back and help this team right now to maintain a top 5 or 6 seed.
Well, and the 4 is where it's at, in my personal opinion. The 4 is where it's at. The 5 could be, because again, you're not in the play-in. And I don't mind playing Denver in the second round. Now, don't clip that, because if that happens and they beat us, you're like, well, Voitis said back on March 22nd, it wasn't no one in the West is truly scary, but you're right. The one thing that is scary is momentum. And if the Suns clearly don't have momentum right now, it's dropping quick. Just 2 weeks ago, we were talking like, hey, shit, we can get the 3rd. We might be able to get the 2nd seed. Then you lose 5 out of 6, and you're like, fuck, man, we might be in the play-in here soon. I mean, that's the Western Conference this year. And a lot of these teams, there's going to be teams that are in the play-in that got hot at the right time. And you're right. The Phoenix Suns have to do everything they can to try to avoid that. And that's why tonight's loss, again, is so unbelievably frustrating. And I led off the podcast by saying, you don't like to say that, your 72nd game of the season or 71st game of the season or whatever it was is a must win, but that's how it feels. Because from a momentum standpoint, we are losing it, and we're losing it fast. And you have other teams like Minnesota, they're gaining momentum. Oklahoma City, they're gaining momentum. The Lakers, they're starting to gain some momentum. The Lakers are 7-5 without LeBron. Right? So, I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, whether these teams are winning legitly or they're getting 46 free throws against the Phoenix Suns, they are gaining momentum and the Suns are losing it. Now, if the season were to end today and we were to play the Clippers, I'd love it because it sucks, but Paul George does not look well. That injury last night, God, prayers up for Paul George, man. You hate to see that because I'd love to beat push off George.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. Push off P. There you go. I'd love to play him in the postseason because that's a team that we can beat. Without him, they become highly beatable. I know that Kawhi Leonard is Kawhi Leonard, and I know that they have some wings, and they like you said, they have a team that has that. While the Suns have been fledgling with their identity all season, post All-Star break and post trade deadline, the Clippers have identified themselves and they've been playing better. Right? They don't have a lot of confidence issues post trade deadline. I think they did a good job there. So not having Paul George is a big chunk of that. And I'd happily accept playing them in the first round, knowing that Denver would be on the other side of that if we could get past them, because I think Denver's beatable. But you're right.
Yeah, who can you trust?
The one team that scares me right now is the team that we're playing next, man. The Sacramento Kings scare me because of their offense. Because teams like that, and they can get hot at any time and just go on a for any of you who've watched any Kings basketball outside of Suns basketball, you know what I'm talking about. This team drops 10-0 runs like it's nothing. Like, boom, you're, oh, shit, well, there it was. And the Phoenix Suns, given the current state, can't keep up with that. They just can't. They just can't. They can't.
No, not right now they can't. And Big Sexy does say, momentum hurt us last year going into playoffs. Remember, we did let off the pedal a little bit.
Big time. Big time.
Yeah, I think it definitely did. You met a team with the Pelicans that just were ready to bump and grind down there. And dude, you know what?
Their mind was telling them no, but their body was telling them yes.
There is really no team right now, seriously, in the West. I'm not confident in this whole Suns team right now. I'm not looking forward to any games. I don't fucking want to watch these games, right? It's tough.
It's painful.
I hate it.
I had a cover tonight for Brightside, and I'm like, you know what? It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game.
No.
And then it's just like, as it's happening, you're like, okay, it's going to be a free throw
you're just
game.
like, oh yeah, one of those. Yeah, we're just not that good right now.
Like, okay, I got to try to be nice in the way that I cover this game and just not be a true fan and be like, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I just think Sacramento's like 1 year away. I mean, I know it's like, oh, you never know what's going to happen next year, but they're clicking. They are, but I just don't. The experience and stuff is a big thing, and I think the Suns do have that now with the pieces they have left over from the trade. But even when saying that, I don't believe myself. What am I talking about?
So you want to believe it? That's where we're all at as Suns fans, because we have this mystical, Kevin Durant is out there, and it's just like, it's gonna happen. Like once he's back, everything's gonna be okay.
Just come back, Katie.
Be okay. And it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. You have to have the stars. Yes, we've always talked about that. The team that has the stars are going to win the series, but you need some depth, and that's what we learned in the NBA Finals. I don't even know. We haven't done one drop this whole thing, so we'll just do this. All right, the referees are jam stars of the game. 46. Devin Booker had 33 in this game.
We didn't even do subreddit stakeout, man.
Oh shit! Yeah, tell me what the LA people were saying.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
We are Jamsters. We're not even doing drops. Matthew's got eyebrows.
I'm a producer, dude.
You look like Eugene Levy.
Yes, I do. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought about 10 times a day while looking at these glasses.
What did they say?
All right, wake up, honey.
Subreddit.
Daily AR15. Love the name. Austin Reeves. AR15 highlights just dropped. Yeah, AD getting bullied by fucking Biombo on both ends of the court. He was early.
early.
AD woke up when Jock came in there, so it was nice. Mm-hmm. A lot of crap about AD. Just hate him. Even bums don't fear AD because he's soft. He you know, a lot of that. There's he took Booker's cornbread. I don't know if you heard that. Were you watching ESPN? Was it?
I wasn't, but I saw it all on
I
Twitter.
got stuff on my lips. The Suns are a very unlikable team. That kept happening. I hate the Suns. Fuck the Suns. Imagine if we had Embiid instead of A Disney. A Disney is a new nickname. I never heard that one.
I've heard it. Yeah, I've heard it before.
Really?
Yeah, because the only championship he won was the Disney one.
That inbound pass at the end of the third quarter, where he just I think he actually threw it out of bounds, like hit the line.
Yeah.
Someone just wrote like walking the dog makes no sense in that situation. I just thought that was so funny because there were so many guys down on the other side of the court and he just like rolled it. And I was like, oh yeah, walking the dog.
Walking the dog.
Like, what is he doing? But then Shaman that was like a football play. Everyone was like going for the fumble, dude.
Yeah.
And that was the highlight of the game for the Suns, I feel like. And someone said, yeah, I don't feel good. Booker and CP are closers. I don't think they've watched the Suns this year, so I don't think they closed one game out.
They haven't. Two. That's so it. Last year.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout. Thoughts? Brains?
Did you see the Mavericks game beforehand?
I watched a little bit of it, yeah.
Did you see when they lined up on the wrong side of the court and let the Warriors just score 2 points?
No, was that in the third quarter?
Yes.
Mark Cuban did tweet something about that, but I didn't even read it.
He's challenging it. He said, like, the refs duped him. It's like, how do you not know what side of the fucking court you're on?
I would have to see it. So they gave him, like, they were on the other side, and, like, they went the wrong way with it?
So, like, the Dallas Mavericks defense, so the Warriors got the ball, and the Dallas Mavericks defense was on the other side of the court. Like, I'm inbounding it, and then I have to take it across court, to go score. But they were inbounding it on their side of the court. And Dallas, instead of being there to defend the inbound pass, and the 5 players who were standing down there next to the brim were on the other side. And it was 2 points, and they ultimately lost 127 to 125. So it's like Mark Cuban's going to be challenging his own team's stupidity. And he's saying, like, a ref misinformed him or something. I don't know. It's
I'm confused.
Weird,
I have to watch it. I have to go on ESPN like I haven't done in a while. Watch some highlights.
It's all over Twitter.
Go on to Twitter.
It's hilarious.
Okay.
It's just absolutely hilarious. So funny. So funny.
What a weird pod. I had so many notes, and we didn't do any drops or anything. We just talked about, what did we talk about? Just how depressed we are?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. John Carl's like a dropless podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one and only.
Yeah. Tell me what you have in your notes. You got 2 minutes.
Oh, dude, it's too late. Dude, I don't even know. I'm all staring like at a blank sheet of paper. I'm like, oh, that's a lot. I don't know, man, if I can go through these.
They're in Braille.
Yeah. Is that our thoughts?
That's our thoughts right there. So on that note, is there anything else that I missed, Matthew? Anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, I like the way Payne and Shaman are playing off the bench. I think Shaman played a really good game tonight. A lot of confidence in his shot. His shot's a little different. It looks a little bit more straight now.
Looks like he's getting more lift on his jumper too.
Yeah, it looks a little different. So he's looked better. I think his offense is what the Suns need for sure. I wanted him to kind of close the game out instead of Chris Paul, but
yeah, I do like.
Weird thing to say.
Well, I wrote it in the piece for Brightside as I was covering the game tonight. Landry Shamet has been such a welcomed addition. He's been productive. I mean, he was 3 of 5 from beyond the arc in the first half. He was 3 of 3 from beyond the arc in the last game. Like, that's what you want from Landry. Like, come in and hit 3 threes. That's all we need every game, man. Those 9 points are generally momentum makers or momentum breakers for the opposition the way they're scoring. So yeah, I'm all for that. Next game for the Phoenix Suns, again, they're playing on Friday against the Sacramento Kings in Sacramento. We'll be coming to you live after that game. Hopefully it's a nice win. We could really use a win, man. That'd be nice.
I'm just gonna say I don't think it's gonna be.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So
this is weird.
And then we got the 76ers the next night on Saturday night. So that's going to be a challenging game as well. So there you go, Jamsters.
Just keep shooting.
Just
line them up. Shoot.
Line them up
the
and
threes.
shoot.
Play some Dallas Mavericks basketball.
There you go. Fuck defense. I mean, what's the point? Stop fouling. Just Olay. Come on in. You can't stop him anyways. What's the point? So on that note, Jamsters, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. hit the thumbs up button if you happen to be watching this on YouTube. And until Friday night, we'll see you then. So everyone have a good rest of your week.
Yeah, go home and love your family.